Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. Today we are going to talk about live visuals and animations and how to make them professional looking. We are going to focus on the material settings, how to create cool materials and good looking materials, realistic materials. We're going to focus on how to create the lighting to be really spectacular, talking about the camera settings, how to set up the proper view, the proper settings, the effects for the cameras with a few clicks. And also in the end, I'm going to show you a few tips of how to create pro animations, good looking animations in the end. We have a lot on our tray, so let's start with the first one. When creating professional renders with archline.xp Live, it's essential to have the proper materials. And when I'm talking about proper materials for the professional renders, I'm talking about the texture itself, the quality of the material and the settings of the material. Let's see a few examples to that. For example, in this example, as you can see, the textures are detailed enough, far and near, supporting the visuals that I'm about to create. Should that be any of those views, the first one here or any of the other ones in a brighter or darker tones, they all work properly. If I change the camera, they are all nice and detailed, and whatever surface I'm looking at, for example onto this surface, it will support the project the way I want. Also talking about that, it is also important that all the materials that you apply onto surfaces should be applied onto surfaces that are also detailed enough. I'm talking about, for example, about this couch that you can see around this coffee table. If that would not be detailed enough, I could apply any sort of detailed material, but it wouldn't just make the magic, because if this breaks up into surfaces and if it's not looking nice enough, not detailed enough, then it would not support my visual perfectly the way I want. So when we talk about the materials, we're not only talking about the materials, but we also talk about the surfaces themselves sometimes. So this is one of the first rules, to have the proper materials. So the tools for that in Archline are coming from two ways. One is that you can use the built-in materials, and you can use the materials that are coming from the host software. In that case, this could be the Archline.xp design software or SketchUp. Now in this case, what I see on these surfaces, these are library materials, factory default materials, and imported materials, just as many surfaces I can see around. Whenever I select a surface, I can edit the material settings, and the first thing I need to do after importing a model or visualizing the model for the first time, I need to set up the material type, or at least make sure that I'm using the proper material type. Now, general is kind of a jolly joker. You can use it for many different cases, and you can flexibly change its properties the way you want. But as you can see, you also have ceiling, chrome, curtain, emissive, fabric, and so on. So many different default settings that you can go with right away off the shelf. You can just select wood, and it will appear greatly as a wood surface would be looking like in a 3D environment like this. Of course, you have the option to change its brightness, to change its reflectivity, to change whatever option you would like to have that perfect effect that you would like to in a second. But the basic setting should be correct. So surfaces on wall, glass surfaces, metallic surfaces, and so on, they should all fall into the proper material category. Like right after that, of course, you have the option as well to change the texture size. For example, now I would like to dislocate this material. In that case, I can just shift it horizontally and vertically, and you can see it's actually moving on the surface to another location. If I would like to zero that out, I can also type the value. I can just click here, type 00, and then it goes back to the original origin where it starts, where it's originated from. Also, you can rotate materials on surfaces. You can just do that easily. You can either use this spin box by just grabbing it and dial it up or dial it down wherever you would like to freely change its value. Or you can also type, for example, 45, then for example 90 degrees or 0 degrees. This will automatically change the orientation of this material on this surface. Now also you can change the size. You can stretch it double time, like for example like this, or you can go back to the original. I think this is just too much stretched. I can go back to number one, and also you have the option, if this would be an animated surface like a moving poster on a surface or something like that, you can also change the texture speed either horizontally or vertically in the texture space. So this is how it goes when you work with imported materials that came with the model. Now, also, just as I mentioned, you have the option to use the library materials. Those are good quality PBR materials that you can use right off the shelf from here. Now, for example, in this case, this pocket was used from one of the categories like flooring, and I can just quickly check how it looks like with beach strip. This is how it looks like. Now, let's just check the oak basket, the oak herringbone, and so on. So I can just play with these. I think in the end I have used this herringbone with the like, you know, these kind of errors on the surface. Like this makes it a really nice and detailed used surface like it is now. So also you need to make sure that whenever you use a surface material, it should be seamless, just as it is now. It is not having stitches or I don't know, like breaks in the material surface itself. So it is nice and detailed, and this should be the rule when you create your own material as well, which I will show you just in a nutshell pretty soon. So I have used this material, but despite this being a library material, I still have the option to select this material and change its properties. I cannot change its category, but I can change whatever else I would like to. I can change its position, I can change its rotation to not go further. This is like how it looks like with 40 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and going back to 0. This is how it looked originally, and I can change the brightness, reflection, roughness, and so on. So just as I could do with the other materials that I have imported, I can change those settings on my own the way I would like to. Now, I also would like to show you quickly how you can use physically based realistic materials in the software, because that is a great feature and it's widely supported in the software. But for that, I just would like to make clear this view. So I will just quickly disable the depth of field, which I will talk about a little bit later. But I just disable it now. So this is how it looks like. This material is fine, but I would like to import and create a new material from one of the free sources that I used to use. And I would like to show you that there are places on the internet that you can just go around and find, for example, texturehaven.com, or formerly known CCO Textures, which is now Ambient CG. Those are two portals where you can go and find public domain materials for physically based rendering here, and also free materials you can find here, free textures. Those places are usually receiving donations, so if you would like to, please donate and support this team, because they do awesome jobs with the materials. Now let's see what you can find here. Texture Haven is my example here today. I go to the textures library, and here you can find a lot of categories, different floor, metal, plaster, and so on, and of course wood. And if you go into any of those materials, you can find nice and detailed materials just as they are here in this library. Now when I select kitchen wood, for example, this is, as you can see, a very nice, fine and detailed material that I would like to use and apply onto my design. So how it goes, how can I do that, and what makes a physically based material? What's the difference between just using a regular texture and use it as a material surface? Now here, what we can see here is a material that is a combination of different so-called channels, textures. Now what I can see here, this is how it looks like when it's assembled. But this is actually created based on an AO, a diffuse, a normal, and a roughness channel. Let's see what those are. First I will start with diffuse, because this is the one that is the most known. The diffuse is the one that you see. This is what you can see when you look at a surface, and you would say, okay, this is how the surface looks like. So this is the generic texture, the one that is visual, the one that you will see. This is the diffuse channel. So you will definitely need the diffuse channel wherever you find a diffuse channel like that. This is sometimes called color. You can also find something called AO. This is the ambient occlusion. Now this is the ambient occlusion is kind of a specific term. You will see it in the end when I use it on the surface, but this is actually defining details with the shaded areas of a material. It is really difficult to describe it now, but you will see when I use it on a surface, but it is a very useful texture. So if you have it, download it and you will be able to use it. Also, you can use the normal map. Normal map, or you can even find sometimes bomb map. Both is supported in live, so whichever you find, it's fine. You can also download that. This is a texture that describes the depth and the heights of this material. Based on those colors, the software will understand what is higher and what is lower in the surface, and it will mimic that sort of surface behavior, how it will look like under certain light conditions. Also, you have the roughness channel in this case, which will define the fine polished and the rough parts of this material, and this will also give a nice detail to this one, so I will use that. So as many channels you will find, you should download that, and the software will very likely support many of those or any of those. And also all you can do is just to download all the maps, unzip the content, and then you will be able to use it in archline.xp Live. So now this is how it goes then. Whenever you would like to create a new material, then you can go to any of your current categories. Now I have actually created a category, a folder that is called folder, and here I actually already created a few of those materials. Like this is the last one that I've created lately, and this is actually what I would like to create on my own. This is how it will look like, and it is all created, and I should turn on all instances mode, which will change the materials everywhere. Okay, so this is fine. So I would like to create a material like this with all the fine details. Now, how will that go? I just go here into my library and click on this button and this option button, and I will click on create a new item. Now this will bring up the create new material dialog, where I can give it a name and I can decide how I would like to create it. Later I will talk about this a little bit in more detail. And also I can change the material type, what that would be, should that be wood or anything else. Now I will keep it general, so I will be able to use most of the channels that I would like to use today, so I will just keep it default. Now here I click on this one, and with this one I can either pick up a texture or any sort of color. Now I actually have a library with the unzipped textures, it's here. So I'm actually going to the kitchen wood library, which contains the unzipped JPEG files that I'm willing to use today. And first I will select the diffuse channel. This is the one that I will look at when I look at the surface. So this is the first that I will select. I click on open, and the software will digest it, and it will load it into, and it will also automatically change the brightness channel. This is the color channel, the brightness channel. This is the material used at both places. I mean the texture used at both places automatically. Later I will be able to change any of those properties. I can also change it now, but it would not make sense because I cannot see it in real. So I will just change those values a little bit later. This material has no emissive property. I don't want to make it shine or use it like a light bulb or something like that, so I just skip this part. I skip transparency. Actually, any of those channels are actually fully optional. Use whichever you have, whichever you wish, and just skip the rest if you don't want. Now I also have a roughness channel, so I just click here and I find my roughness texture. This is it. I click on open. And then I go to bomb map. Now, well, this is not only bomb map. This is also normal map, but it is not described here. But whichever you have, should that be a normal map or a bomb map, you can just click here and click on open. I'm loading the normal map, and the software will properly use it. You don't have to convert it or something like that. It will automatically be able to be used on the surface. And I also have ambient occlusion, so I click here and I click on ambient occlusion, and this is the one that I would like to use. It's a little bit similar to the roughness, but with different information, so it is fine. This is what I wanted. I don't have specular, so I click on OK, and see here I actually have this material name automatically given by the texture name. So I will just change it to, let's just change it to something like kitchen surface or something like that. Or wood surface, maybe that's even better. Wood surface. Originally this was used in a kitchen perhaps, so that's why it's kitchen wood. So I will just name it wood surface and it will appear somewhere here in the library. So I just name it and hit OK. So from that time I will be able to use it on this surface. I just need to scroll down, find my material. This is the wood surface that I've just created, and click and drag it onto the surface, and it automatically works just as nice as I want it, because it has all the details and the shininess and everything else that is coming from the texture. But I also have the option to fine-tune them the way I want, because for example I don't want to make it like a lacquered version of this material, so I just would like to change the reflectivity and so on. So for that I'm just zooming in a little bit more so we will be able to catch up the details, and then I select the surface and I click on the material surface, and I can see now I can customize the wood surface the way I want. I can of course change the brightness, I can make it darker, I can make it brighter, but as far as I can tell I also defined roughness and bump map. And I also would like to dial down the reflection. I don't want this to be too much reflective like that. So as you can see, the veneer is coming out. The way I'm decreasing the reflection, it is automatically giving me that nice detail that is inside the roughness channel. And if I highlight this roughness channel and I just change this value to a higher value, you can see clearly that now the lower areas that are actually not that much touched or not that much, used, they are less polished, they are less reflective, because this is how the roughness channel works. Things that are described as darker tones and brighter tones, they will behave different under certain light conditions. Also, bump map is something that I can change. I can make it a little bit more, equally polished or something like that, or a little bit more bumpy. Well, in this case, this is coming from the normal map, but the thing is that it will change how wavy, let's say, that the surface is. So this way I can change how it works. I think I'd still decrease the reflectivity as it was a little bit too much. And now let's see what the ambient occlusion does. Now I can only show you if I disable the ambient occlusion, because this is a binary option. You either have ambient occlusion or not. So I will just erase this. I will just discard this texture that like I never wanted to use, and see how it will change this look here. If I just erase it, see everything just kind of lost a little bit of the details, and it's less realistic like that. So this is what I want, and this is what I wanted to bring in, and this is why I use the ambient occlusion channel if I have any, because it will be just simply prettier. So I will just click here and I just bring it back, click open, and it is nice and detailed now. I like this view, so I will just keep it. So this is how easily you can create any sort of material. You can change the way it looks like. You can clone these materials. With this one you can actually create multiple copies of it, and you can just do whatever you would like to with those copies. You can either customize the default materials. You can also create your own materials, but the most important topic here is that you should use good quality materials, good quality textures. And if you don't have a good quality, hunt for a better, and don't use the bad quality material. And if you have the PBR material option, if you find something online that you like, just use it and you will be able to create stunning visuals in seconds, just as I did with this one here. When talking about materials, there's one more thing that we should not forget to talk about, and it's the video surfaces. Now in situations like this, especially when this is a reflective, there's a TV screen where instead of a still image, I would like to show video content. I can go to the libraries, I can go to the navigator, to the material libraries, and I can find ready-made video surfaces that I can just click and drag onto a surface and see whether I like that content, or I can change it to something else, and it automatically starts playing in a pace how it was recorded and how it was saved. Now this is something that I can also create on my own. I actually already created one content, but I would like to show you how that works. So what I'm gonna do now, I go to the libraries, this video library, and I click here to create a new item. Now this new item will be a material obviously, but all I need to do is just, instead of using a general material setting here, I just need to turn this into a video-based material. So now this video-based material, which I can browse for the video content here for, so I just click here, will be made out of a video file that I have either created by myself, or in this case I have saved and downloaded from pexels.com, for example. So let's see, there's this video that I would like to use, so I'm selecting it, and I click OK, open. So the software will automatically create a video based on this video content that I have here. I will just name it based on the maker. So let's say this is Turn Elliot, and it's the hot balloons, and that's it. So this is what I would like to use as a name, and then I just click OK. So it will be automatically created here. This is the content that I have created now. So all I need to do is, just as in case of the built-in materials, I just click and drag, apply it to the surface, and it starts automatically playing. And just as in other cases, this video surface is actually a material. So what you can do with that is that you can select it and you can go to the material properties. You can change its geometrical properties like the size and how it's rotated or not. You can even animate it if you would like to. And then you can also, of course, change the brightness to better fit your scenario. You can change its volume. If the video comes with sound, you can change how strong the volume is. You can even change the inner radius and the fall-off distance for the sound. And for better visualization, you can also turn on the visualization of the inner radius. Now, the inner radius is where the sound volume is 100%, and the fall-off distance is how it is fallen off to something like this. This will be the boundary from where it is totally not audible. So this is something that you can completely turn on or off. You can even mute the sound if you don't like, but the content is there, and it is really helpful to create vivid and living content whenever we talk about a still image. Of course, in that case it won't play, but when we create, in the end we will create the animation, it will also automatically play and support the this living room or any sort of interior very well with this video content. Here's another thing that distinguishes professional renders from regular ones, and it's the true reflections. Now, what you see on screen, it's a beautiful scene with glass surfaces here, which are kind of slightly reflecting something, but it is not perfect, as you can see here. So here it goes with one example that I would like to show you, that all you need to do to fix this is to go back to the library, find something called reflections in the material libraries. There's the one called reflection, and there is an object or a utility called reflection plane. All you need to do is to click and drag this reflection plane on any of those surfaces, and it will automatically fix the reflection. Now what we can see here is actually the reflection of this light source here, the reflection of this shadow here of this item, and the reflection of the staircase that is actually behind this wall. So this is actually now a perfect reflection. The reason it's not happening automatically, it's because this takes a little bit of the computing power. So using too much of these would decrease the computational power and the speed and the way we work with the tool. So you can decide whenever there is a surface where you would like to apply this to, should that be a large building portal, a real mirror, or a reflective surface like this, or a floor, you can just click and drag, and you can even customize the settings. You can just click on it and you can change how it looks like, how perfect it is, and so on. Another perfect example, of course, for the true reflections is if I'm using a truly reflective surface like a mirror. Now for this reason, I will actually load a mirror surface here. I'm going to the libraries, and here in the object libraries I have something called living room, and here I can find a few pieces of ready-made high quality mirrors. I can also search for those items here. Now I have this one here. I just click and drag onto a surface. I can change its size, I can change its position. What we can obviously see here is that there's an indication of reflection here, but it is far from perfect. Now for what we need to do now, we already know that there is the material function that we can find here. It is called reflection, and there is the reflection plane that we can just click and drag onto the surface, and there you go. It is already fixed. What I do now, I can just zoom in and move the camera so we can see that it is perfectly and nicely reflecting everything from the surrounding. So now it is there for us to use. Now what I can do with this one, again, I can just turn on the reflection plane to see how large it is. I can shrink it, I can change its size best to fit with the original size of the reflective surface. you can change the quality and so on. So basically, this is something that is a very easy thing to do, and you can just focus on things that are truly reflective, and then you can just apply a reflective surface, a reflective plane, a reflection plane on surfaces that where you would like to see true, real reflections. If you're working with scenes like me, here's a pro tip. You can actually, with one single click and drag actually, you can move items from one surface to another perfectly snapped and aligned. And this is how it goes. All you need to do is just, if you would like to place this item, this little vase, this decorative item from this level to the ground, all you need to do is just to select it, turn on the move marker, and then instead of just using the regular axis here, just click and drag this little white sphere at the bottom. This is actually the origin of this, the reference point of this item. So if you click and drag, see how I move it, it's actually snapping also to the side. So it is a very simple move. I just click and drag and release, and it's on the surface. It's very, very easy. What you need to do is, again, if I would like to move this object from this level to this one, I can just select this one, click and drag the white sphere, the origin, and move it to the other surface, and that's it. So this easily you can just move items from one surface to another one. Should that be vertical, slanted, or horizontal, no matter, it will be just as easy as it was with these two decorative items. A good visual is also a very well lit visual. I mean, when I'm talking about well lit visual, I'm talking about the quality and the mood of the visual's light conditions. You can also set up the sunlight conditions, but in this specific case, I would like to talk about the artificial lights. Artificial lights can be easily customized. If you look around in this image, we can see that that they are very well lighting up the scene, highlighting the points what we wanted to highlight, and also they have this nice touch with the color that creates a good mood, like a kind of like a warm interior mood that we wanted to reach with this. How it was done, it can be easily talked about when I click here and I reveal what sort of light sources we have here. Let me just enable that and look around. We have these spotlight light sources here at the top of the ceiling, and we also have, if I just zoom in and turn to the left, we have this light source here at the left hand side. Whenever you have a light source either imported from here or coming with the model, those are something that you can easily customize, and you can change whether they are on or off, change their intensity and the temperature. This is an important thing. By default, lights, if they are coming untouched from an external source, they are most likely bright white like this here. And in this case, as you can see, that the tone of that light will be kind of a cold, cool effect, which is sometimes wanted, but in this specific case, we wanted to change it and to give it a little bit more warm touch. So we decreased the temperature to something like this, and we can see that it is much better supporting the interior with all these nice colors inside. And whenever I would like to, I can just check how it works or not. This is how it is with this setting here. Now, other thing is that you can do, besides using ready-made materials, you can lights, you can also import IES files, and in whichever option you go with, you have the option to turn a light source into a helper light or into a real light. Now, the difference between those two is how they look like, how they behave, and the performance, which is also very important. Now, in this scene, not all light sources cast shadows. They are just actually like supporting actors. But many of those, like the hero lights that we have, for example, on the ceiling, a few of those, they are casting shadows and they do the work, and they do support visual very well. Let's see how this works. Like, for example, this here at the left hand side, this is just a supporting actor. This is just a helper light. If I just change it to real light, see, there's not a big change with the lighting conditions. You cannot see better shadows, or if you see, it is just subtle. So we can just turn it off, and we actually gain a little bit more of the performance. Whenever you enable the real light option, it will decrease the performance a little bit, because the software will have to create shadows, and we will also have to calculate the shadows. So if you use too many, it will decrease sometimes the performance to a point where it will be very difficult to work with this model with. So it is just keep it in mind. So whenever you import a model, it will come with all happy lights, and you need to decide whichever is a real light. Now in this case, for this visual, which is, I think it's very realistic and looks very cool, we can check how it is lit with the ceiling lights. As you can see, the ceiling lights, they originally came with 8 light sources, but only one, the spotlight source, is turned on. And whenever I click on those, I can tell whether they are real light sources, and that the intensity is changed, temperature is changed. And I can also check the same thing with this one. This is also a real light, and this is also a real light. But if I go to this one, this is not a real light. So let's see how that works with the real light and the happy light. So let's just select this one and see what it changes and how it works, how it effectively supports this visual here. Now what I do here, I just turn this real light into a happy light. So happy light is kind of fills the space with light, but it will remove the cast shadows, and in this case this is not what I wanted, or if I wanted this is just a very subtle effect and it is not realistic that much then when I turn it on. So what I do now, I just turn this back on, and we can see there's a slight drop in the frame rate, which actually you can turn on. I will show you. There's a slight drop in the frame rate because we are not working with many light sources yet. But the visual is much better. So I just turned it on. I won't turn it on all of them, but I will turn on the shadow caster option only in cases when I need it. Now in this case at the right hand side, it is actually turned off. So this is just a helper light. Now let's see what changes if I turn it on. This makes it, I feel it like it's a little bit too dark. It's a little bit too much of this effect. So I can decide to keep it, but for the sake of performance, which is now dropped down quite a much, I just turned it off to have it a helper light, and still the visual is very good. The performance is very good, so I can work with this model very well. But I did not turn on all the light sources as shadow casters, but only the ones that I'm actually using, like so-called hero lights. These are the ones that are creating the shadows in this scene. So this is actually how this visual was created originally. Creating a good visual is not only about materials and lights, but also about the camera. Finding the best position to tell the best story that you can tell about that interior or exterior, whichever you would like to choose. Now in this specific case, I would like to show you, and I actually also saved a view for that case. I have this one here, which is lacking any of those features that I would like to teach you now. But in this sample project, which you can actually find on the start screen, you will find this this first view, which I would like to show you how it was done, how it was created. Now first, let me show you how you can navigate, how you can find the best spot, and for that I will just start with a view like this, and I will teach you how you can manage the camera the way you want. Now first things first, if you would like to move the camera, you would like to pan the camera, for that you will use the mouse wheel. You need to hold down the mouse wheel and move the mouse to the left, to the right, up or down, and this way you're moving in this plane only horizontally and vertically, and you can find the best spot. This is best used when you would like to frame the things that you would like to frame in that specific visual that you're about to create. So this is panning the camera. If you would like to zoom in or out, you can just scroll up or scroll down, and the way and how fast this actually happens, it can be controlled either by using the settings of the software or by just holding down the control. This will zoom in slower and zoom out slower, or releasing, and then you will use the default zoom in and out. This is good when you are in an interior, and especially in a smaller one. And if you are working on a large scene or exteriors, you can hold shift, and that way the software will zoom in or out quite fast. Those are like the speed changers. Control is slowing down, shift is speeding up, and if you release them, that's the normal zoom in or out. So that is how it goes when you would like to pan and zoom. Now, there is two other things. If you would like to orbit around something, or you would like to look around, that is two different things in the software. Now, if you would like to orbit around something, you need to hold your mouse on the surface of that specific item that you would like to orbit around, and then hold down the shift and the mouse wheel and move the mouse. So now I'm orbiting around that little specific ways. If I would like to orbit around the image, I do the same. I just move my mouse here and I hold shift and mouse wheel, and then I'm orbiting around that specific surface. So this way you can easily find a spot where you would like to orbit around, where you would like to revolve around with the camera. Now, if you would like to look around from a specific point of view where you are at that very moment, then all you need to do is to hold down the right mouse button and keep it holding and move the mouse to the left, to the right, up or down. This way you can look around. Even you can look at the floor, wherever you would like to. So this way you can manage where you're looking at. So combining these with a few steps, you can find the best spot that you would like to. And you can even follow a few guidelines, which I will teach you, that are necessary to create great visuals. Now, let's just see how it goes. First, I actually usually find the spot where I would like to frame in the focal point of my visual. Now, in this case, the focal point will be this image, or at least somewhere around this. So I will just make sure that I'm actually looking at that specific image. Then I will just keep my mouse here and I hold the shift and wheel and I move it around to find the spot where I would like to place my camera. And then I can still release everything, and I just use the pan to find the best spot, and I can zoom in or out to find, and even use the control to find the best position where I would like to place my camera. And this way I can find the proper spot, frame in the proper detail that I would like to, and I still have the option to a little bit look around to find a spot where I look up or down, or to the right or to the left, to find the best spot where I would like to look at. Now here comes an interesting thing. When you would like to create a professional visual, you need to make sure 99% of the cases that all the verticals that you look at in a space, and those should be vertical, they appear vertical in your visual as well. So now let's see about how it works here. Now, for example, this is not a professional view, not because it's showing the ceiling, but because the verticals are not verticals. And it's the same here. If I just would like to take a shot like this, this is, most of the cases, this is something that we would like to avoid if you would like to create professional visuals. So I'm going back and I try to find the nice spot, nice sweet spot when it is perfect, just perfectly aligned. And here comes an interesting thing. There is also actually a way in the software how you can lock the horizontal or the vertical directions when you are actually continuously looking around. So for those, you can also use the Control and the Shift key while you are looking around. So if I'm holding the Control key and now I'm starting to look around using the right mouse button and move my mouse up and down, now the direction is vertically locked. So even if I move my mouse to the left and right, I cannot turn my head around. I cannot turn the camera around. I can only move up and down. So it is good when you would like to fine tweak the position. This is, I think it's perfectly aligned. So I can just release them and then that's fine. If you would like to just horizontally lock the direction, you can do that as well. You can just hold the Shift key and the right mouse button and then look around, and then if I move my mouse up and down, it's not making anything. But if I just turn it left or right, it's horizontally locked, as you can see. So you can easily and quickly find the perfect frame for your image and then release when you like the result. And if you like it, you can just go here and just save it into a new view. Sorry, not with this one, but with this one, because this updates the current view. Okay, so this way I have created a new view, and let's see a few more details. How I can use the camera effects, what are camera effects and how I can use them. So for that reason, I have actually loaded I created a new view, and here I kind of zeroed out all the camera effects that are effective in a normal regular view. And I would like to teach you how they change and how they support the vividity and the realism of an image, like you saw previously on those previous image. So sometimes when you import a model from an external source and you visualize it, all you see here at the camera properties that the field of view is filled up with the proper field of view. It should not be something more than, I don't know, 70 or something like that, usually in case of interiors, because as you can see, if you widen up this too much, it will just kind of create a fisheye effect, which you don't want. So I'm just changing back either by using this, or this is actually the value how it came. So it was 67. So I'm just using the default value, and I would like to talk about the rest of these features. Now, exposure is the one that you would like to usually start with. Exposure changes the exposure of the image, just as the name implies. And this is also something that you can find similar in cameras, in digital cameras. When you change the exposure, it will automatically change how much of the light is reaching the sensor of the camera. So it will kind of like brighten up the scene, but not in a way as the brightness will do, because you can also change that. But this, if you use that too much, it will actually wash out the visual. So you just need to use a subtle value for this, like something like this in this specific case. Also contrast. Now, decreasing contrast is usually counterproductive because you don't want to wash out the image, but you would like to actually a little bit more highlight the dark areas and highlight the white areas. So you need to usually increase the contrast. And also you need to change the saturation a little bit, not too much, because again, we don't want to create a cartoon. Sometimes when the effect desires, then you can just increase it into a really high value, or you can just completely disable it to create a kind of like a grayscale effect like this. But sometimes we just increase it a little bit to give it a little bit more color, make it a little bit more vivid, because that's what the clients usually expect. Also, you can change the white balance. The white balance is something that comes with the default white. If you would like to make it cooler, you can decrease the white balance, but if you would like to make it warmer, you can increase the white balance. Now, I like this value around 8,000, so I will just keep it like that. And as you can see, with a few values touched, you created a normal image into a vivid, a realistic visual, a nice visual that your clients will like. Now, talking about the rest of these, depth of field is a very good one. Now, for that, I need to turn this off, because now here, if you look at the edge of the screen, this flower is close to the camera, but this is just too perfectly sharp and crisp, and I don't want that. I would like to have that nice depth of field effect, so I just enable it, and I can change the strength of this depth of field, like something like this. I like this much better. I can also change the autofocus. I can just pick up a focal point to zoom on the plant if I want, or pick up another focal point at the image, but best used is the autofocus if you don't want to use the manual option. Now, there's another one which is called the global illumination. This is a little bit performance costly, but worth the performance, because if you turn it on, you can see that it is kind of more realistic in a way, how these the surrounding surfaces, the neighboring surfaces, reflect onto each other. Like, for example, this in real also it should receive some sort of light from this yellowish floor onto this surface, just as it would happen in a real room. If you turn that off, this will be washed out, and it's more realistic. It's a little bit more too perfect. So if you just enable this option, this is how it goes. And as you can see, this bright effect on the wall surface also appears. And also the ceiling is something that is worth talking about. When you turn this on, it is usually much more realistic like that. So if you turn that on, it will just make it much better. That's the golden rule. So if you go back, there are also the lens flare, the bloom. Those are not used here, so I don't turn them on. Vignetting is also something that is, I think, very useful, because it is mimicking the real camera effects, making the corners a little bit more dark. And also chromatic aberration, which is now turned completely off, but I like to turn it on a little bit. But for being able to talk about what it makes, how it changes the visual, first I will dial it up way up to this one. So you will see that this is what actually it does. Around the edges, it will just create this realistic lens effect that happens around the real photographs. But I don't want this to be distorted like this, so I just use it at a low value, something like this, or usually I use something around 20, so it appears around the edges, but with this subtle touch that I like so much. So I just usually turn this also on. And finally, And this way, I'm actually reflecting back to the previous settings. There is this interesting setting which is called the automatic lens shift. Now, so what would happen if I would like to look at this design a little bit from above, but I would like to make this centered like this. Like in this case, I need to turn my head down and change the perspective in a way that I don't want, because we just discussed that we would like to have these nice perfectly vertical verticals. So now, instead of trying to fiddle with the settings of the camera, turning it around, revolving around objects and so on, I just turn this on and it will just work like magic, and it will automatically fix the verticals. And then now wherever I turn my head, however I change my visual, it will automatically align the verticals to be perfectly aligned verticals. So this is a very useful effect. If you turn that off, it will reveal how the camera really looks like into this space. But if you turn it on, it will just make your life way easier, and it will just automatically turn your less perfect visual into a professionally aligned, perfect professional visual, just as it is now on screen. Another good practical use to the automatic lens shift is when you would like to change the angle, you would like to change how you are looking at the exterior scene, but you don't want to change how the verticals are represented. So now for this reason, I've loaded up this interior, and here you can see that all you need to do to fix this perspective is to turn on the automatic lens shift. And here we go, we are there. But now, if I would like to have a look at this desk, for example, from a high ground, then all I need to do is just to use the panning the camera up a little bit, and then with right click and hold, just tilt the camera a little bit down. So now I have a little bit of different angle, but still with the perfect vertical angles. Also, the same thing happens if I would like to completely frame this scenario here. Just completely turn the camera down, still we can see perfect verticals. So whichever my case may be, I would like to have a completely different angle on a shot, or I just would like to refine it a little bit. The automatic lens shift is a very, very good thing. Just as useful as in the interiors. Now here, what I have here is the building itself, which is completely and perfectly framed. It is the main theme of my rendering here, my visual here. But as you can see, it's not perfect because all the verticals are non-verticals, because actually I had to turn the camera up so I'm not losing any of the details. So if I just position it like this, I will lose the roof, the top of the roof, and I see too much of the ground here, which I don't want. So all I need to do is just to turn the camera to frame it completely. And then I need to go back to the camera properties and turn on the automatic lens shift, which will just brilliantly fix it as magic. And then I can just take the perfect snapshot and I can just send my professional visual to my client, or I can upload wherever I would like to. It might not be that obvious, but the surrounding is just as much important as the content itself that we have created. Now, my main theme here is the building itself, but should we imagine that we are inside the building and looking outside, if we can see something that we cannot believe, it easily crashes the whole visual experience that we would like to provide for our clients. So what we need to do is to quickly create surrounding content that is not taking too much time, but it's supporting the visual just as much as we want it. So for this reason, the software is actually equipped with surroundings, which you can find in the object library. And there's a material, there's a folder called background, and here you can find ready-made backgrounds. And wherever you turn around in this model, what you need to do is just to click and drag any of those backgrounds. Let me just start with Greenpoint Park. So I just click and drag it somewhere in the middle of my scene, and it will automatically surround my my scene. It's like a ring with this panoramic surrounding, and I can decide whether I like it or not. I can select it, and I can turn on the rotation sphere, and I can just rotate it to find a better match. But sometimes it will just not fall automatically. It just won't stitch together with my foreground because I still have a different grass color or something like that. Well, I still have the option to change the grass, or I can also select this one and erase. and then just go back and select a different background, like for example this one. Still here I have the option to select it, rotate it the way I want, to find a better position for this background. And then what I told you before, I still have the option to select this ground and change the material a little bit. It's like changing the brightness a little bit, make it even a little bit brighter or darker. So this all works pretty fine when I would like to make this connection between the surrounding rim, the surrounding panoramic background, and my foreground seamless. Also, I have the option to turn on the foliage painter to paint a little bit of forest here, or other foliage like these trees and everything else to make this disappear. And also I have the option to change the color of the ground if I would like to. And just as I told you before, we can also create different other materials. Now here, talking about this as well, the background is not only the background surface and the surrounding itself, but the sky as well. So you can go to the edit sunlight tray here, and here you can just refine the position of the sunlight if you would like to find the best position for that. You can even change the date, the time, you can change the orientation of the north sign. And also here is the option to change the amount of the clouds. So what I would like to do now, I just dial this down to find this, actually it's a little bit more like a clear sky, but if I dial this up and I just do that slightly, so you can see that it is slightly disappearing and reappearing here in this scene. And when I find that it is kind of like a perfect match with the foreground and the background, I just leave it untouched and this will just do the trick. So you can not only change the model itself, but the background is also important, with the foliage perhaps, the panoramic background and the sky itself, and of course the sunlight. Besides professional rendering, let's see an example how you can create professional visuals with animations. Now in Archline, in Live, you can not only use the views that are coming from Archline, from the design software, but you can also use animations. And in this example, in this sample file, which you can find in the starting screen of Live, you actually also have a built-in series of animations. And here first I would like to show you how a professional looking animation looks like, and then how you can stitch something like this together. Now what you can see here is an animation sequence made up of animations, like pieces of animations. Here you can see these are short shots, like 6 or 7 seconds shots only, and those are sequentially stitched together into one large animation in a sequence, which at the end you can save into an animation file. So now let's see first how this whole animation of stitched together animation sequences, how it looks like. So whenever I click here and I click on the play icon, I can see that it starts with an opening shot with the camera elevating from the ground, and then there's a panning camera from the left to the right. It's slowly panning so the client can digest the content and they can see we can talk about what happens on screen. There's a slowly panning shot from the right, from the left, from different heights, focusing on different contents. Also there is a specific shot that is focusing on the coffee table, and also there's another one which is focusing on the TV screen, and once I change this to a different content, it will be even more highlighted. So these are the things that are stitched together from single pieces into one large animation. And let me show you how that works. Now whenever you select any of these are animations named animation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can actually name them, otherwise they are just simply numbered now. And even whenever you select one, you can see that it is actually starting from one keyframe. This is how we call it, and ends up at another keyframe, and it's actually 6 seconds long. So when I play this, it's a 6 second long shot from the ground to the top. So this is one piece, and this is, I think it's a good advice when you especially when you are starting to create content like this, is that you shouldn't stitch together one long path with several breakpoints, several animation keyframes, but you should only create simple ones and then create a few of those, and then later in the end stitch together. I will show you how that works. So let me just first show you how you can create actually a new one. So whenever you have a new model, like for example, you haven't created any sort of animation, this tray will actually be totally empty. So all you need to do is to create a new animation. You need to find the starting spot for that animation. So in that case, you just go either selecting any of those existing views that you have, or you can just, use the camera tools to rotate the view, orbit around, and find the starting spot. Now I will actually just select this side view, this one. This will be my starting shot, or maybe this one, whichever is actually perfectly fine. The animation will actually inherit the animation properties, the camera properties, but you can actually freely change them. So whenever you find a perfect first shot spot, like let me just go here, and I think this is where I would like to start from. And I will also turn off the camera depth of field, or no, sorry, I will just turn on the autofocus. So everything in the center will be automatically in focus. So this is what I do. So now what I do, I just go back to the animation tray, make changes of the camera settings if I would like to. I still have the options here, whatever I would like to change, and then I can create my animation. So this is where you can create an animation here on the animation tray. Let's imagine this is empty. When I click here, then a new animation is created, automatically named with a number. You can just click here, change the name if you would like to, but the first frame, the first keyframe from where your animation starts from is automatically added to the tray. Now, if I would like to, I can just go around, try to find the final spot where I would like to end up with my animation. Like for example, let's just end up on these light sources. Those are beautiful here. So I'm actually modifying the view, and then I add the new keyframe. This is the place where you can add the new keyframe. So just hit it, and then you will have the first keyframe and the second keyframe, and that's enough. You can actually create more, but if you would like to create professional shots, it's enough that you create the starting point and the end point, and then you are ending up with a short shot which will be stitched together with the rest. So all I need to do is just to make it long enough, because now actually it is just too short. It's 1 second long, and it is it would be very fast. So I believe 6 or 7 seconds for a shot like this is not too much slow, but not too fast. So I can just change this value. So let me just preview it. So it's nice and slow enough, perhaps a little bit fast in the end. But it is helping me to understand the context, and I can talk about the content with the user, I mean the client. So I think this is a good starter. So now I'm actually in an animation. I'm in animation 7, because I actually already have 6 other one. So I just go back up to the tray which collects all my animations. Well, actually I already have 7, and this is the 8th because the numbering starts with 0. So I have the first animation, an animation elevating, go back, I have a second, a third, and so on and so on, and my new animation was added to the end. So when I click on it, I enter into this animation, so I see the first and the second keyframe, and I can preview it, and I can also go back. So this is how it works. And the way they stitch together is that they are actually in chronological order. So the first will come first, and the second, and so on. So if I would like to change the order, and I would like to, instead of the last one, I would like to make this one the first, all I can do is to click on this little icon, which is the left arrow, and I can move it to the left, move it to the left, and so on. So I can change the order in this chronological order, and the software will automatically stitch them together. So let me just actually move this back to the beginning like this. And then now the whole animation sequence will start with my first shot, which starts from here, and then there will be the elevation shot coming. So let me just start play the whole sequence. So I'm just starting here. So this is how it goes. My first shot is here, then comes the elevation shot, the elevating shot, and then comes the other one, the panning shot, and so on and so on. So this is how it goes. A good advice here is that you should actually use another pro setting, which is here, this little selection, I mean the option. That if you click here, you can turn on the transition, which will, with one single click, it will create a more professional result as you will see soon. You don't even change anything here, you just turn this option on and you click OK, and then this is how it will work. You just start playing your animation, and this is how it starts, with a nice fade in. Then comes a beautiful crossfade between the two scenes, and comes the second one. There's another crossfade coming. The file. Wait a few minutes, literally just a few minutes, even if it's an HD video. You can just wait a few minutes, and then the software will save it into a video file that anyone can play on any sort of device that can play a video file. Thank you. That was this for today. I hope you liked this content, and if you did not have time to ask your questions in real time, then you can just leave us a comment and ask it later. We are more than happy to answer at any time. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps us to understand whether you liked it or not. And if you did not do so yet, please subscribe to our channel. You can also download the free trial of the software if you don't have it yet. And most of the things that I have shown today, you can retry in your own copy using any of those sample files that we have either in the commercial license or with the trial version. So see you soon next time in the next session.